Hello, everyone, and welcome to another at a glance episode. Um, if I'm being honest and real with you guys, um, that I really wasn't uh planning on doing, and a podcast episode this week. I do to everything that has happened since I shot a last week's episode. Recently I've had one of the worst and toughest weeks of my life. For several days that I endured, and I battled a storm that raged on in me. And and this storm was, it was unlike any other storm that I've ever faced or been through or had to navigate through. Not just simply because of how long that it lasted, but also in the way that it acted. So I would get through what I felt like, was like one storm, and it would ease up, giving me the impression, that the worst is over with, that I've made it through, that the storm has passed. But it only died down, and when the next storm hit, that it combined with the last storm. And, and it intensified, which caused greater and a greater internal war to rage on inside of me that inevitably spilled out into the physical world. There were a handful of times when I wanted to give up on life. I didn't want to be blamed for anything else. I didn't want to be in constant pain. I didn't want to experience triggers that would take me back to traumatic events in my childhood. I felt like no one was really trying to understand or to take the time to understand just so I was doing or the extent of what I was dealing with. In the end, there was one person who understood what I was going through and how it was and how it was impacting me. Eventually, the storm that it did pass, but not before forcing a lot of locked doors open and forcing me to face a lot of things like all at once. So in other news, I posted my lock journey 1 year update to my YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out yet, please do. You might just learn something about me that you wouldn't have thought or even pictured. My little man is off spring break and back to school. I'm sure that he would have had loved it if it lasted a little bit longer. But I think, that he needs to be around, other kids his own age, that he needs to learn as much as that he's able to, and I know that he loves science and he loves math, but I think that there are things that he can learn at school, that he may not necessarily be able to learn, through us at home, and changing gears, I have all of the live plants surrounding the pond planted into the in a closure, except for 4 clusters of snapdragons. Once the last plants surrounding the pond are put in, then I'll go ahead, and make the purchase for the springtails, and and add some food for them, under the moss covered stones, so so they have some food, and that they also feel safe. They're not out in the open. There's no need to go worry about something coming along and and eating you, right? Because you really don't know that you're actually there. And just give them some time to adapt to being there, and then once they have adapted to their new environment, then I can go ahead and put Tito into her new home. I will say that working and creating like every section or part of this and closure. That has been a journey in and of that it's self. So that brings us to our first main topic of this week's episode. Hard truth is dealing with misconceptions. Life is full of misconceptions. Life is full of misconceptions, isn't it? Some people like to act as if they're perfect, meaning in their eyes they can do no wrong or no harm. Some people are placed up on a pedestal based on half truths. Some people like to omit pieces of information so someone else looks like the bad guy instead of them. I've had the joy or unfortunate luck of experiencing each of those misconceptions at one point or another in my life. To be honest, I think those are the three misconceptions that bother me the most. When I think or look back on how certain people have acted around me, I don't think enough could have summed it up or said it any better than when he stated that he hoped the person doesn't break both of their legs falling off of their high horse. In my eyes, the pedestal and the high horse are one and the same, just a different way of looking at it. I think it's important that we realize that we're not perfect, and that hiding parts of the truth won't help us in the end. We may be judged differently once the whole truth comes out, but at least we gave someone the opportunity to see the full picture and not just bits and pieces of it. One more misconception to think about. Some people think that those dealing with like inner demons can snap their fingers and instantly erase their PTSD, the depression, their anxiety, their panic attacks, their anger, as well as many others. Almost as if they're feeling that way because they want to. I'm going to take this moment and speak out and to let it be known that no one enjoys dealing with those and their demons. It's not something that we can just snap our fingers and erase, nor is it something that we want to battle on a daily basis. The second main topic of this week's episode is can't escape the past. If I'm honest, there are many days when I wish I could just escape my past. There's so many moments when I wish I could erase parts of my past, and including things from my childhood. There's so many moments when I wish I could just forget some things, but I can't. I'm not able to because my mind remembers what happened. Even if I have things thrown in a chest or in a room behind multiple locked doors and chains. Truth is, some things are going to happen in my life that will ultimately trigger past traumas without me knowing or even realizing. In that moment, why I'm so bothered by something. Later after the event has passed, and I take the time to think about things, I will realize that the event triggered a painful memory, and that led me to run before things could have the chance to develop into something far worse than what's at hand. I'm starting to get and understand what my therapist and the lessons from my group therapy were trying to get me to see. No one is asking us to forget about our past because that's how we learn to beware of danger. Instead, they're asking us to accept the fact that certain things have happened so that we can begin the healing process. No one is asking us to be okay with the trauma, but instead they're asking that we accept that it did happen so we can admit it to ourselves that it happened. Because only by accepting that something happened can we then hope to work past it and move forward. And now, the last main topic of this week's episode. We can hope for we can hope for a brighter future. Regardless of the trauma and things we've been through in our lives, there is one thing we can do in the midst of it. We can hope for a brighter future. We can try to work through things at our own pace. And bit by bit, until we can get to a point where we can work through and manage our trigger points in a healthy way. We can take things one day at a time and as they come. Healing doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. However, if we make a vow not to give up and throw in a towel, we can work towards a brighter future and get to a point where even our worst days won't be able to rip our world apart. We are capable of reaching a point where we can navigate through the storm and come out on the other side without giving up on life, without giving up on ourselves. Yeah. That concludes this week's episode. For those of you who are watching us, I want to say thank you. If you have any comments, remarks, anything like that, feel free to post those on my YouTube channel. For those of you who are going through an awful lot, or if you know someone who's going through an awful lot, you're not alone. Please let them know that they're not alone. That they don't have to fight this alone. They don't have to deal with this alone. That they can talk to someone who they trust. Doesn't mean they have to open up about everything all at once. No. You only have to open up about the things that you are ready to open up about. So, the conversation that you have with someone is entirely up to you. You know, I mean, it's up to us as to where that goes. You know, I mean, for me, like, I use this as a safe space. You know, um, where like open up about things that I'm going through. I give a mental uh, ch- uh, ch- at a check in starting off, and then dive into things throughout the week or whatever that have been like bothering me or bothering me like right now. Um, like I do this because that I need an outlet, you know, because that I feel that I can't always talk directly with someone about the things that I'm going through, about the things that I'm dealing with. There's been so many times that I've heard someone say, "Oh yeah, I will try to understand more," but then a couple of days later, like they're judging you off of the same exact things. It's almost if they didn't even attempt to even understand what you're dealing with or what you're going to. Hence the uh one topic from a previous episode where I said that understanding is a life skill, you know? Um but that's because the one person wants to be dumb or wants to hold on to miscon substance about what you're going through, about what you're dealing with. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to do the exact same thing. I mean, I'm not here to judge anyone at all. Like, I'm not. I'm here to share what I'm going through, in hopes that someone else, who's going through something similar to what I've been through, or who knows someone who's going through some things like this, they can share it with them, and that way that they understand that they're not in this alone, you know. Um, it's like I've always said, if what I do on here, if it can even have just a one into a visual, then it's all worth it. Yeah. Um, I think this week's episode has really hit at a lot of things that perhaps have been bothering me for a while, but I just didn't, feel up to, talking about them, until now. Um, but if nothing else, just like know that you don't have to do this alone, and it's a perfectly fine, to take things one day at a time and as they come. Um, so as always, until next time, I hope everyone has a safe and a wonderful week.